welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special as we count down to the winter session of Parliament. Joining me for a very special conversation is the former Finance Minister and Congress Party leader, Mr. P Chidambaram. Mr. Chidambaram, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me start by asking you about whether or not there is hope in the air as far as the GST is concerned. Yesterday, in an interview to me, the Minister of State for Finance, Mr. Sinha, said the government has done its homework as far as the GST is concerned. It's reaching out to the opposition. The Finance Minister has also said that they're willing to discuss and have reached out to the opposition. Do you believe that we could see the GST going through in this session?
I don't know. I read this morning that the Finance Minister made a speech at the ASSOCHAM yesterday, and I did not think that that kind of confrontational speech is the way to reach out to the opposition.
Okay, so you believe that this has now brought us back to square one, and the efforts to try and approach the Congress Party and try and get the Congress Party on board to pass the GST bill in this session, that has been sort of undone on the back of the comments last night?
I don't know what they have done. I don't know who they have spoken to. But if they have spoken to someone, then yesterday's speech was the wrong message to be sent or leave of Parliament. But I don't think everything is lost. They can still tone down the rhetoric and speak to the Congress Party and speak to other political parties. Perhaps
it is rhetoric, Mr. Chidambaram, but I ask you this specifically in the context of the 18% rate demand that has been the Congress Party's big issue. What we are given to understand from sources that while the government hasn't put a number to it, the Finance Minister has very categorically stated that a low, reasonable tax rate should be the order of the day. The Minister of State for Finance has said that India needs to have a competitive GST rate. We understand it could be 18%, it could even be lower than 18%. If that indeed is the case, will the Congress support it?
Tell us the number. Why are they holding the cards close to their chest? Take the country into conference and tell us what the appropriate number is. And if we all agree, we can put that in the Constitution Amendment Bill.
So you will continue to hold out the demand that the rate be included in the Constitutional Amendment Bill?
Yes.
You're not going to, the Congress will not let go of that particular...
There's no reason to. You must tell me a reason why it should not be put in the bill.
I will give you the argument that is being made by the government, and I will quote the Finance Minister to you. In given exigencies, if the tariff has to be altered, you will then need two-thirds majority in both houses of Parliament, and hence it is not prudent, he used the word preposterous yesterday, to include the rate in the Constitutional Amendment Bill.
Wrong argument. If you have such a compelling case, Parliament will amend and increase the rate. Parliament is there for that. If the government makes out a compelling case why in extraordinary circumstances the 18% rate should be raised as a temporary measure or for a period of time, why do you say Parliament will not oblige you?
So if it's 18% but not in the bill, it will be a no-go as far as the Congress is concerned?
We are concerned about the tendency of governments. Take, for example, Income Tax Act. The old Act 1922 and then the next Act of 1961. The Parliament trusted the government and said, we're not putting any cap on the rate. At one point of time, the marginal rate of income tax went to 97.5%. Therefore, what is wrong in putting a cap? You have the Chief Economic Advisor's report, which is recommended, I'm told, 18%. World over, it is 15 or 16. What we are worried is, if you don't put a cap, creeping increases in rate will come about because the states and the center will join hands and say, we need money for this, we need money for that. Look at the Swachh Bharat cess. Now, why do you add a 0.5% cess to an ongoing program which should be funded from revenues? Therefore, we think that, and industry agrees with us, that it's time to cap the power of executive government by putting a limit on the taxes. And then if there's an extraordinary circumstance, why do you believe that the executive government cannot convince Parliament. It's a business and a parliamentary democracy. It is a business of executive government to convince Parliament every day.
I guess what's going on in Parliament is what is forcing the government to pursue this line of thinking.
What is going on in Parliament is much of the government's own doing. It is the present government, it is the present party in government which advocated or propagated the theory that obstructionism is a legitimate parliamentary device. I opposed it then and I oppose it now.
Okay. Let me continue to talk to you about the GST and the other arguments that the Congress party has made. So if it is indeed 18% or lower, that of course is what the Congress party wants, but you do want the inclusion as far as the bill is concerned. We don't know whether the government will give in to that or not. On the specific issue as far as the 1% manufacturing tax is concerned, we are given to understand, and this is of course official sources, that there is a rethink on that, and that in fact may be reviewed in light of what the Congress is demanding. If that indeed happens, will you give in your support?
It's not the Congress alone that is demanding that. It's a universal demand. The 1% was originally justified because the states were not being compensated 100%. Once the states are compensated 100%, the justification for 1% goes. So the government should have, on its own, withdrawn this 1%, rather than say we are giving in to the Congress party.
So if they give in to the Congress party, sir,
one of our
you will
demands.
Support it then?
One of our demands is accepted.
The three key demands, so this is the second one, and I'll come to the third in just a second. As far as the grievance redressal mechanism is concerned, the Congress is demanding statutory status.
No, that's not what we're demanding.
Okay.
We are demanding that the dispute resolution mechanism should not contain the disputants themselves.
Okay.
I thought that was elementary logic. The disputants cannot be the dispute resolution mechanism.
So an independent mechanism is what the Congress is.
There has to be a mechanism outside the disputants' body.
Okay. So of these three demands, if they give in to at least two of the crucial...
We're not bargaining.
You're not bargaining. So it has to be three or nothing.
These three are logical demands. Either you convince me that these demands are wrong, or we convince you that the demands are right.
So you're saying that there could be no negotiation as far as the demand is concerned?
We're not in a shandy or a bazaar. We are raising demands to a bill that would change the landscape of taxation in this country. Therefore, we have to plan and think ahead for the next 50 years.
Right.
Therefore, we are putting fundamental issues. Convince us we are wrong.
Okay. At this point in time, you believe that they haven't been able to convince you, so we'll see.
In fact, a number of people are beginning to write and speak in favor of our position.
And privately, some members within the government have also stated that the position...
Industry is fully supportive of what I'm saying.
Especially as far as the low rate of taxes.
No, industry is fully supportive of all the three issues that we have discussed today.
So my final point on the GST, you feel more hopeful today on the back of whatever conversations have happened between the party as well as the government?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to anyone. I don't know who they are speaking to. So whoever they are speaking to will speak officially for the party. I'm giving a view which I believe is the party's view.
Okay. Let me now talk to you about the state of the economy. And in your latest piece, Mr. Chidambaram, you say that the state of the economy requires more than a summons to the members of parliament, and contrary to what the government ministers may say in public, the economy is in poor shape. The telltale sign is the flat growth rate. No one will argue with you that could more have been done. Are there missed opportunities? But the fact of the matter is, are things fundamentally better from a macroeconomic standpoint? Yes, you can't argue with that. Yes, they have the benefit as far as oil prices are concerned, but surely you cannot say that that's the only reason why the economy is doing better today.
That's your view. I don't. Show me one number in my column which is wrong.
No, I'm not saying your column is wrong.
Every single number in my column, every data point which I've put in my column is right, then the only conclusion is the economy is in poor shape.
But given the global context, sir, you know, and this is the IMF data, India is today the fastest growing economy in the world.
That's not saying anything.
Why is that not saying anything?
You can be a one-eyed monarch of the blind. Point is, if others are doing badly, that doesn't mean you can't do better.
No, you can do better. For certain you can do better, but at this point in time, it's 7.5%.
Well, I'm not even sure about 7.5 anymore.
So you believe that the numbers are cooked?
In fact, no. I'm saying the projection is only for 7.3. That's not 7.5. There's a big difference between 7.3 and 7.5.
Okay.
7.3 will take you back to where you were in 2014-15. And will fall far short of the government's optimistic projections that we are going to do 8.5.
Yeah, absolutely. And they continue to hold on to that number at this point in time. But let me, we can argue about their numbers versus your numbers, but that's not going to achieve anything constructive. So let me ask you this, sir, and I want to get your comments on specific issues. The CBDT has announced a roadmap for phasing out exemptions in the hope of bringing the corporate tax rate down to 25% from the current 30%. Do you believe that the manner in which the exemptions are being proposed to phase out, it's a good move? It will simplify the tax structure, it will avoid discretion, it will bring down litigation.
There's a better way. I'm not opposed to the CBDT's proposal. I haven't seen the fine print, but broadly I agree. But there's a better way. The better way is to pass the DTC. The direct taxes code is the answer to the problem of direct taxes. We have a ready-made code. All right, some things have been incorporated, so make some few changes here and there, but pass the DTC.
Are you surprised that another panel has been set up, sir?
Yeah,
to look at exactly the
not
same
only
issues?
Surprised, I'm disappointed. Because many of the members of that panel were part of the drafting team of the DTC. Therefore, 1961 Act, we are now, what, 53 years down the line, isn't it? Yeah, 53 years down the line. Pass a new law. Remember, 1922 Income Tax Act was replaced in 1961, which is about 39 years after the first act. Now, 53 years after the 1961 Act, if there is a ready DTC, why don't you take it and pass it? That's the better way to reform direct taxation.
Well, we don't know why the reluctance, but anyway, at this point in time, there is a new panel that's been set up to address some of these issues. And speaking of some of those issues that perhaps the panel may look into, it is not part of the terms of reference. And linked to that is this issue as far as retrospective taxation in Section 9 and the possibility of bringing back conciliation to the table as far as Vodafone is concerned. You're familiar with this matter, so this is not the first time that we're attempting conciliation with Vodafone. In my understanding, conciliation would require amendments to the Income Tax Act. Is that accurate or not?
Well, what I had in mind and what I had proposed and what Cabinet had approved was, we go through a conciliation process, arrive at an agreed solution, then take it to Parliament and say, this is the agreed solution, therefore we need to amend the Act to implement the agreed solution. And I have no doubt, with 282 members on their side, they can easily pass it in Parliament. We could not do it.
Because you didn't have the numbers.
But nevertheless, I tried. It's entirely Vodafone's fault that they backed out at the last minute from conciliation. They were buffeted with contrary legal advice from, I think, 3 or 4 law firms. The moral of the story is don't hire more than one lawyer. But if Vodafone is willing to conciliate, I think conciliation, a solution can be found in a matter of weeks, and you can go back to Parliament and amend the Act.
So you will need to amend the Act?
Well, I think you would need to amend the Act to implement the solution.